Hello there once again, fellow peregrinos. Welcome to El Camino de Santiago Pilgrims podcast, where we talk about planning, preparation and packing for walking the road to Santiago, as well as tips, tricks and hacks to make your journey along the way a lot more enjoyable. This week we're talking to an Irish pilgrim, Aidan Boyle, who's walked, I'll get that correct, Aidan Boyle, who has walked the Camino Frances, all of it, as well as a portion of the Camino del Norte back in 2018, and the Camino Frances was last year, correct, Aidan?
Absolutely, yeah, bang on.
Right, well, thanks for joining us on the podcast, mate. I'm going to start, as I always do, with the big question, the million-dollar question, and that is, I want you to imagine we've just met in the plaza of the cathedral in Santiago. We're going for a beer down one of the side streets, and my first question will be, Aidan, tell us about why you decided to walk the Camino de Santiago.
No worries. Well, thanks for having me, first of all. But I remember, I kind of consider my first, I suppose, full Camino was last year, as you mentioned. And I remember just for that one in particular, back in kind of October of 2018, I was kind of going through a bit of a rough time. I was very kind of stressed out of university. Wanted a bit of kind of time to myself. I knew that I sort of needed a bit of time away from home and just time to kind of get my head straight as well. So I was thinking and I actually remember the exact day. It was kind of like a light bulb moment, and I was thinking, what can I do? Where can I go? Something to look forward to. And I thought, oh my goodness, I've by that stage I'd walked a week on the Del Norte earlier on that year, and I thought, oh, I want to go and try do the Camino. So it was a real kind of like realization of, yeah, that's exactly what I need. And I booked then to go in October of 2018. I booked to go for the following May, and was just really just looking forward to it from then. And yeah, and little did I know really then how much I guess it would really affect me. I mean, I knew I would kind of. I knew that some of the experiences I would get on it, but it really did change my life in a way. And I look back on those days really fondly now, as I'm sure everyone does.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you decided to walk, excuse me, you decided to walk the Camino Frances after having done a year on the Norte. Mm-hmm. How did the two compare for you?
Well, it was interesting. So the Norte, when I was on the Norte, the kind of my first kind of experience of the Camino was through my mum. She actually went for her, and she won't let me say this, for her 50th birthday, which was nearly 10 years ago now. But she went, and we didn't really know much about it at that stage. She kind of explained what it was and whatnot. And she wanted to go on kind of one sort of big trip before we all went off to uni. So in the Norte, I went with my mum, one of my brothers, my sister, and then some family friends of ours, and we walked from Santander. I think we did about 90 kilometers. It was lovely. It was really, really nice. Very, I have to say, very difficult in terms of the ascents and descents. It's very hilly. As I'm sure you know, it's all coastal. It's lovely. I mean, the scenery is absolutely amazing. And I have to say, the time of year that we were there, we just got really lucky with the weather. We were there for about 5 days, and the whole 5 days, the sun just split the stones the whole time, and it was really beautiful and very much, I think, quite similar to home and to kind of the trails that we have in Ireland, which I think is possibly one of the reasons that I enjoyed it so much. And that was I know I've heard the phrase that people catch the bug for the Camino, and I think that was kind of my first, the first time I experienced that, I guess.
And you thought, after a week, I want some more of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So why did you decide to go back and walk the Frances instead of completing the whole of the Norte?
That's a good question. I think just because, if you do any research about the Camino, the Frances is obviously the most popular route. It's covered in a lot of documentaries, films, books. And I just heard a lot of really, really good things about it. And again, I had a few kind of family friends who had done a few days on it, or a few weeks and so on, and they just loved it. And I was also aware of kind of the history that's really connected with it, and I just really thought, oh, that's something that really appeals to me. And Spain is a fantastic country, and it's somewhere that I had been fortunate enough to spend a fair chunk of time before even going on the Camino. So I just thought, oh, it's a fantastic way to kind of discover more about such a wonderful place as well.
And I'm intrigued about how you got on as a family walking the
Mm-hmm.
Camino together, because I
Mm-hmm.
guess that can put any kind of put you under a little bit of pressure, and
Yeah,
tensions
yeah.
can be running high.
It
And
was it was interesting because Connor, my brother, him and I are he's only a year older than me, so we grew up together essentially. My sister, who was with us, she's about 10 years older than us. So and then there were friends of ours who were kind of around our age as well. I think that the family thing, when we were going, because you know yourself what it's like. You get up early in the morning. It's long days, although they're enjoyable. Long days. Sometimes under like a really hot sun, you can be a little bit grumpy sometimes at the end of the day.
absolutely, yeah.
But we got on really well. It was a really fantastic experience. And I mean, we still talk about that holiday. Two nearly 3 years later. Because it was just such a good thing to do together. And
Are you saying that just because they're listening, or are you saying it because you're speaking the truth?
a bit of both. No. It was
Good
fantastic.
stuff.
And if you do have the chance to go with your family, even for a few days, I would really, really strongly recommend it.
Well, I mean, I've done it a few times with my wife, and
Mm-hmm.
we just seem to get on better than ever, to be honest with you. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know if you can say the same, but we've definitely, as cliched and as cheesy as it may sound, we've grown closer having done those trips together instead of the opposite.
I completely understand, and I would love. My mum and I actually talked about before coronavirus and all this that's going on at the minute. We talked about maybe going back later on in the year, and hopefully we'll get a chance. But I mean, she's maybe not quite as big a fanatic as I am, but still, really, really, she's been several times on several different routes, so she would love to go back as well, and I'd definitely love to go back with her.
Okay, talking of going back, imagine
Yes.
that was about to happen. Tell me what would be the three first things on your kit list, and we're going to take away the obvious there, which would be your boots, your backpack, and say your socks.
Yeah. So I think that the most important thing, without a shadow of a doubt, I think, other than the three obvious, is a poncho. And you'll understand why, but northern Spain, as warm as it is, sometimes when it rains, it really, really rains.
It doesn't muck around, does it?
It does not muck around. It rains and rains and rains and rains.
That's just the
Sometimes
Irishman
snows.
in you, isn't it? Thinking it's going to rain any second. It's going to rain.
I mean, I was very very well practiced with that. I have to say on my Camino last summer. I was knocking about with people from all over the world, of course, and they were maybe sometimes complaining about the rain, and I was nope, used to it, happy enough. Shorts on every day, and just as long as you have the poncho, it's dead on. And as well as that, I think, and this is something I didn't actually expect to use, is a walking stick. No, I didn't go with any poles or sticks or anything, but I bought like a staff, I guess, like a more, I guess, traditional, wooden staff with the spike on the end. And I thought it was really, really useful, especially for going down hills. The knees get sore and you need a bit of something to lean on. Is really, really useful. So yeah, but I think 100% the poncho is the key. A good poncho can save you a lot of heartache.
So you've got so far the poncho, the walking staff, and the last thing?
I think as well as that, and I know this maybe sounds kind of contradictory, but a good rain cover for your bag, because although most ponchos do go over your bag as well, I think having the rain cover on it as well gave me a bit of a peace of mind, that everything was safe and dry in there, because there really is nothing worse than wet equipment or wet gear.
And I think it can have a tendency to rain a bit more on the Camino del Norte as well. Correct me if I'm wrong, but because it's a little bit further north and closer to the coast.
Yeah, I would agree. As I said, we were fortunate we just didn't experience that, but from what I've read and what I've heard, yeah, absolutely.
And what about when you're choosing the really important things of your boots and backpack? If you were to kind of advise, say, a friend that was going to go tomorrow, what would you say?
Yeah, well, I think that the boots and the socks are just so important. I fell victim to horrendous blisters on the Francais, and I think it was mainly because of my boots. And so I started out with a pair of walking boots. I had, presumed I had broken quite well broken in. And I had good socks and all that, but the boots were just too heavy for that time of the year. So I think at one point I counted and I had something like 16 blisters in total, like 9 on one foot and 7 on the other. And they were really, really bad blisters. So I ditched the boots and I bought a pair of trail runners, which were a lot lighter. And they were like, it was like walking on two cushions. So I would say trail runners and not boots. But I do think the most important thing is comfort for yourself. Like, I mean, like price doesn't necessarily dictate like really good quality. Like if you have a good pair of trainers or boots or whatever at home that are really well broken in, I think you'd probably be okay. And socks wise, I think like merino wool socks are hard to beat. They are relatively easy to clean, hand wash as you know you have to a lot of times, and comfortable. Yeah, so I think merino wool socks and trail runners is the magic mix.
Well, I would totally agree with that, and
yeah.
I can kind of relate that story that you said about having terrible blisters from your boots to my wife's problems on our second last Camino. That we were probably 4 or 5 days into the Camino Portuguese, and we'd bought these boots that we thought we'd broken in quite well as well, and they're relatively new, but we'd done a good few miles in them, and then we stopped in Ponte de Lima, I think it was, and bought some Nike trail runners for my wife.
Yeah.
And my wife said the same. She said she felt like she's walking on clouds in comparison.
I know.
Did your blisters clear up after that?
So I was very fortunate in that the kind of group, I guess, the little family that we formed, there was one doctor and one nurse, and they were a married couple actually, and they just knew what to do. I think the one thing I did learn is that, and I don't know, this could be completely wrong, but my blisters, like they burst and they're really, really sore. And eventually the skin on your feet does toughen up, but you just have to keep going and to allow that to happen. Because if you rest, then the skin softens again, and then it means that you're just going to have the same problems. There's probably several trains of thought on it, but I did just kind of plow on at a bit of a slower pace, and eventually my feet toughened up. Yeah.
I mean, it's sometimes you've got that dilemma: do you stop to have a rest, or do you? And if that happens, your feet are going to get softer, and then you're going to have the same problems again. I think if it gets to the point where your feet are maybe getting infected or looking,
absolutely.
Like I got to the point where mine were quite colourful, and I actually went into a pharmacy and I asked for advice, and the pharmacist kind of told me what to do. But it sounds like you had some professionals and some useful people around. And
very much
just
so,
if there's one thing you can remember that they told you that was helpful that you'd pass on, what would it be?
I would say they always told me to drain the blisters if you could, drain them, with the sterilized needle and do your best to kind of bind them. And Vaseline was a big thing for putting on your feet. I think the one thing I would say as well is it's worth getting up half an hour earlier in the morning and staying up maybe half an hour later in the evening to just take care of your feet.
That's a really, really good tip. Yeah.
Because if you get up, I used to get up half an hour earlier in the morning and take that whole time to like basically massage my feet, antiseptic them, bandage them, whatever the kind of technique was, Vaseline. And it was so worth it. Oh my goodness, so worth it.
That time you take in the morning will definitely save you time on the road.
Oh, absolutely.
And a lot of pain on the road as well eventually.
Absolutely.
So I couldn't agree more with that. Taking some time to care for your feet when you finish for the day, and also before you set off, and whatever you need to do, whether it's put Vaseline before or whether it's draining the blisters when you're finished. It's that's a really big help, and really good self-care tip as well though. So thanks a lot. Moving on to albergues. You've done the Camino Frances, you've done a bit of the Del Norte. Could you please tell me, or tell the listeners, one of your favourite albergues, one you'd recommend they stay in, and why you would make that recommendation?
So I've actually got a couple in mind. So I remember one. I think it was in Belorado, on the Francais, and it had a swimming pool, and there was all sorts of, like, there was like peacocks and like all sorts of like animals kind of just like wandering around, and it was just so comfortable. And I remember arriving in the town that day, and it was so hot. It was so warm, and we were looking for somewhere just like comfortable, and then we found this place with the swimming pool, and it was just the best. It was so nice, and I had, you could cook your own food, which I think was always possible. My little group, our little group, we cooked a lot, and then the other one then was called Casa Familia, which is, where was it? I can't remember the name of the town, but it was about 2 days before Santiago. And it was incredible. You were really well looked after. There was only like 6 or maybe 8 of us in the albergue, and we got a great dinner. We got a lovely breakfast the next morning, and like we built a campfire that evening, sang a few songs, had the guitar out, and it was just kind of very kind of homely,
Yeah.
It was lovely. It was really, really nice. So those would be, if anyone recognizes those or remembers the names of the towns, they would be the two ones I would advise the most, definitely.
So the albergue in Belorado with a swimming pool and
Hmm.
peacocks and animals running around where you can cook a
Yeah,
good meal for yourself.
yeah.
And Casa Familia, which you said was about 2 days before Santiago. So maybe it's in
Yeah,
around the Melide area, something like
that
that.
sounds about right. Yeah, that does sound about right.
So look up those places in Galicia and Belorado. All
Hmm.
right. So from a favourite albergue to a
Hmm.
favourite town, city, village,
Hmm.
perhaps a hidden gem that you'd recommend as a must visit along the way.
Mm. Um, I would say I loved Astorga. Astorga I thought was really, really beautiful. Lots of nice restaurants, nice bars. I also really, really, we actually didn't stay here, but Hontanas was lovely as well. Hontanas was just, it was the town after Hornillos del Camino in the Meseta, and it was lovely. We stopped there for lunch, and I do wish that we had stayed a night there, but it just didn't quite fit with the kind of schedule. Um, but there are so many places. I mean, to be honest, I think every kind of little town or village you go through has its own unique sort of charm. And the way the locals and the residents kind of interact with you really opens your eyes into how, I guess, respected peregrinos are on the Camino. Um, but yeah, I really love the Astorga and Pamplona as well. Pamplona, which is about, I think, 4 or 5 days in, I guess, if you start in San Jean Pierre de Port. It's just fantastic. Like, what a city, full of life and full of just lovely bars and restaurants and great people. And yeah, so I think they would be kind of the 3 places, I guess,
Okay,
I would
good stuff.
recommend.
I mean, I remember Astorga specifically as well. He's got a lovely plaza, central plaza,
Hmm. Hmm.
cafes and bars set around the edge. And
Yes.
if I remember rightly, there's the Episcopal Palace, which is a Gaudi
Yeah.
building as
Oh,
well.
it's incredible.
Those thin turrets, the granite made
Yeah.
of granite, looks like something out of a Disney film. Really, really
Hmm.
unique architecture.
Hmm.
And Ontanas, I mean, that's a really lovely place. You answered one of my questions, which was going to be a place that you wished you'd stayed. So you'd
Yeah.
go for Ontanas and that one, yeah. And I'd say, yeah, I remember having a really special night in Ontanas as well,
Yeah.
actually,
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
my Camino family, a group of Australians and South Africans, and it's right in the middle of the Meseta as well. So it's like a safe haven,
It is
a
very much so.
refuge, even after you've been traveling along the plains
Very much so.
for 20 or 30 kilometers. So fantastic recommendations there, Aidan. Thank you very much. And what about, if you can remember,
Hmm.
a specific, because, as pilgrims, we're always thinking about food.
Yeah.
Always got food on the brain. Where's the next place we're
Yeah.
going to eat and drink and get a cafe con leche? So a specific restaurant, cafe, bar, somewhere, an eatery somewhere along the way that you'd recommend, somewhere that knocks your
Yeah.
socks off.
So there was one place in particular I remember, and it may just have been this kind of day that it was, I suppose. But it really stands out to me, and I think it was near Navarrete, and it was this lovely big restaurant beside a kind of a lake. And we stopped there for breakfast, and they had the best tortilla the whole trip, I think. And just really lovely, like coffee and nice. It was just really, 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 really lovely. I might be kind of digging that up in my own head because of the kind of day that it was, but I remember it was very near Navarrete, and it was this lovely, really nice breakfast restaurant. I can't remember the name of it. There were
if it does visit you in the dead of night, the name of the place, then feel free to fire us a message, and I'll post it on our page. So that's Navarrete, I think, is maybe one stage, or it's after Logroño.
Yes,
so
that sounds right.
Logroño around about day 13, something like that. So look out for that place. Best tortilla on the Camino, which is,
I think so.
We've heard that statement made before, so
big praise.
It's a big point of contention, that one. But okay, good stuff. Now I'm going to launch into 6 quick fire questions, Aidan.
Sure.
Okay, so short, sharp, quick answers, and then we'll get back to the main discussion. All right. So, your favorite Camino blog or book?
My favorite book is called Buen Camino, and it's by an Irish father and daughter, and it's about their experience on the pilgrimage, and I just really related to it because they were from Ireland as well.
Your favourite Camino vlog or film?
One by Hank Lurquhart, I think, if I'm pronouncing that right, on YouTube. It's about half an hour long, and it says story on the front face. It's really lovely.
And do you know the name of it?
It's called A Journey to the End of the World.
Beautiful. A Journey to the End of the World. Fantastic. Favourite food and or drink on the Camino?
I'd have to go with patatas bravas, and
wow, yeah.
I think just a cerveza, the beer, the draft beer is just lovely.
We don't often hear that as a choice here on a podcast, so I'm really grateful you've thrown us another idea there. The bravas, the kind of triangular potatoes, and they put all that spicy sauce on it.
Oh, it's lovely.
You make me hungry. Okay, so the patatas bravas, beautiful. One thing you wished you'd packed?
An extra fleece.
Why, you're not going cold or wet, are you?
Sorry?
You're not going cold or wet for anybody?
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
Okay. One thing you didn't need and wouldn't take again?
I had a little tin mug, which I just didn't need. It just took up space.
Hardest part of the Camino?
Oh, the Meseta, without a doubt.
Tell people what the Meseta is like.
The Meseta is essentially like a desert, and there was one day in particular. Sorry, I know this is kind of quick fire, but
no. I've urged you to carry on. Feel free to run with it.
There was one day in particular that myself, and I'm going to give a little shout out to my little Camino family. There was myself, Steve, Chris, Caitlin, and Tyndall, and we just sat after a day on the Meseta, I remember, and we had taken the Via Romana, like an alternative route. And it was so warm and so hot that we sat that evening and we stared at a wall across from Arlberg for about an hour, and I think we were just all defeated after that day. So the Meseta, without a doubt.
I think there's a line in the John Briley guidebook that says, I can't remember it word for word, but it says something like, on that Via Romana, the Roman road, you're going to encounter no houses, no metal signs, no water fountains, no shade, no people. So you definitely took the road.
We did.
The roughest road there.
We did, absolutely. And
it's worth it, though, I think.
I think it's worth it as well, but I remember it was really funny then when we rejoined, I guess, the kind of main route, you could say. And we were checking in at an albergue, and the lady behind the desk was looking at our credencial, and she recognised the stamps from the Via Romana, and she just said that we were crazy. She couldn't believe that. She was like, why'd you do this? You're crazy. Because I think it's quite notorious sometimes, I suppose.
But I think if you can get through it, it's really, really worth it, and makes arriving in Santiago and that stop. I think the town that you get to is called Reliegos. I could be wrong. The next town or the first town that you get on the Via Romana. Okay, your favourite thing about the Camino?
Without a doubt, the companionship, I think, is just incredible. Sorry. Are we still on the quickfire ones here?
We are, but feel free to run with this one as well.
Sorry. So I mean, I guess our little gang, our little family, we actually had a Skype call like a week ago. Like we're still in really good touch, and the four people in particular that I've mentioned before are just four people who have really, changed my life. They've become some of my closest friends, and they remain so. So that's definitely the best thing for me.
A guilty pleasure you carried with you?
I have one book, which was given to me in Roncesvalles by one of the hospitaleros, and I carried it the whole way, and then gave it to someone else in Santiago.
All right. Did the book have some kind of significance, or was it just a random gift?
No, not even. It was just that it was, I can't even remember what it was called. It was just like a fiction, a crime fiction. I remember it was crime fiction.
Right. Just in case you fancied to read along the way.
Just in case, yeah.
Right. Okay. But you gifted it to someone in Santiago.
Gifted it to someone else. Yeah.
Okay. Would you recommend people carry books or not?
No, I wouldn't. No, unnecessary weight. I think it was just pure stubbornness that made me do it.
I think, I would love to take books with me, but often you're so knackered when you get when you finish walking for the day. You spend often so much time alone that you want to mingle and talk to people.
I agree.
And also, if anyone does like to have a read, which is obviously, there's nothing wrong with that. And I'm an avid reader, and a good option, though I don't always advocate being on your phone on the Camino. That's just my way of doing it. I don't like to be myself, but if anyone else does, no problem. But just download the Kindle app on your phone.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you're not going to take two devices. You've got the Kindle app, and you can still access your books on there. So. All right, good stuff. Back to the main discussion. So, it sounds like you had you made some really good friendships that are still going strong a year after returning from the Camino.
Absolutely.
And it's often those friendships and those encounters with our fellow pilgrims that stay with us forever, that touch us more than anything, sometimes more than the journey itself. Can you recall a funny, inspiring, quirky, moving, touching encounter along the way that embodies everything that's good about the Camino and could potentially inspire someone that's not convinced about going to go?
I have one particular story in mind. And so basically when we got to Burgos, I think, which was about, 14 days in, maybe slightly longer, we decided that we wanted to book a nice place to stay and have a bit of a relax. So there was myself and there was Steve, Chris, Caitlin and Tyndall, as already mentioned, and there was all the other people that we had met, and we decided we'd book an Airbnb between the five of us, and we'd all meet up and go somewhere nice for a meal and a bit of a drink that night. So we went out for a meal, went out for a drink, and then before it was 5 o'clock in the morning and we were in a karaoke bar in Burgos. So the next day we were still getting up to walk the next day, so we got up about 9 o'clock. We had to wait to leave. One of the girls had to go and get a new pair of shoes, so we actually weren't leaving Burgos until about 12 o'clock in the day, which, as you know, is far too late.
And very hot.
And very, very hot to be leaving. But we were walking along the trail anyway, and obviously the trail was so quiet. It was just the five of us. And we were intending to stay in Hornillos del Camino, which is a tiny, there's like 60 people who live in the town, I think, or in the village, I suppose. We arrived about 6 o'clock in the evening, and all the albergues were full. So we thought, okay, well, we'll go to Mass, and we'll ask the priest if we can sleep in the church, because I kind of read stories of people doing that, if there was no room left to stay anywhere. So we went to Mass, and the priest is a lovely man called Father Manuel, who I think is actually mentioned in the pre-early guidebook, possibly, but I think he's quite well known amongst pilgrims. The Mass lasted about an hour. And none of us spoke any Spanish, so we had to go and ask Father Manuel. I speak a small bit, so I was kind of nominated to go and ask him if we could stay in the church. And fortunately, there was a deacon with him who spoke Spanish, who translated for us. He was American, but he spoke Spanish, and he translated for us. And Father Manuel said, "No, you can't. But the parish own a house in a small village about 4 miles to the east called Isar, Isar. And so if you go there and you go to the centre of the town and you see someone and you ask for a lady called Natty, she will show you into the house." So off we went to walk about another 4 miles. Got to the town.
Oh, you had to walk there.
Yeah. So we got to the town, and there was, it was so quiet. There was no one around, but there was this one small kind of guest house, I guess, open. So I went into the bar in there and asked the gentleman who was behind the bar if he had any rooms, because it was clearly like a hotel of some kind. And he didn't, or well, he told us he didn't anyway. And then I tried to kind of explain our situation to him, and nothing was going on. Like it wasn't translating. My Spanish wasn't good enough, and all this here. And then we were kind of preparing to just have to sleep in a field somewhere, and then this lady just appeared. It was like an angel. She just appeared from nowhere. And this was Natty. This was who we had been told to find.
No.
And she opened up her shop. She ran the shop in the village, and she opened up her shop, and we bought, bread and I think salami and some crisps and whatever off her. And she showed us to the house. And the house, which I think, we had been told, we just did not pick up on, was abandoned and had been for a fair number of years. So, it was all, it was shelter, but, there were beds and stuff in it, but it hadn't been used by the parish for like 20 years or something. So it was very, very cold at that stage as well. So we all kind of just huddled up in various beds. Everyone had a partner, and we all jumped into bed. So I was sleeping beside Chris, fully clothed inside the sleeping bag, trying to stay warm. But I thought it was such a funny story. It always just really, really stuck with me. Completely self-inflicted. It was because we went out the night before. And
I was going to say, it sounds like the longest 48 hours of your life.
It was an incredibly long day. But I love stories like.
That's a great story. Yeah, that is a great story.
It's a cracker story. It really is. And the feeling of seeing this lady she was like your granny and your mum all mixed into one. She was so lovely and so welcoming, and just kind of appeared from nowhere and said, "Oh yeah, don't worry, I look after you." And it was great.
Well, it's very unlikely that Mate is going to be listening, but that was the lady's name, right?
I think it was Natty.
Natty.
Nati.
Sorry, I didn't hear correctly. Natty.
No worries.
So maybe that's short for Natalia or something like that.
Yeah, possibly.
Natty, if you are listening, thank you very much. And if you're not listening, we hope you can feel that. Thanks for saving the day out there. And you hear this phrase coined so much on the Camino, but it's so true. The Camino provides.
100%.
And
100%.
You often hear as well people say the Camino gives you not what you want, but what you need. And again, this is one of those scenarios. And we had a lady from Los Angeles, Rachel Smith, back in episode 15 or 16, something like that. And she said how she was in Pamplona, I think it was, and she couldn't find someone to stay, so someone opened their garage for her and her friend to sleep in. I had a very similar experience. I was walking through Leon. I had decided rather foolishly to go walking at night because it was a full moon. I thought, yes, let's do this. I want to do a night walk, because obviously you have the Milky Way unfurling all the way to Santiago. I thought I want to follow the Milky Way for a change, because it can get tiring being so hot. Anyway, I got lost, and who did I meet but someone who was in the middle of Leon, was from 10 minutes from where I was born.
No.
Actually lived in that city and said, I'll take you back to the Camino kind of thing, put me back on track.
Incredible.
And these stories happen so often. It's maybe it's the ley lines at work. Maybe it's just fortune favouring the brave. But whatever it is, it's a great story and all part of the adventure. So thanks for sharing that one, Aidan. So
no problem.
Describe the feeling of arriving in Santiago.
That's a really, really hard one to
And how can you
answer.
get the most out of it as well? Because so
Do you
many
know?
people, so many people can, I've read about people saying it's a bit of an anticlimax.
Yeah, I wouldn't
There's
say it's not.
there's the element of like the last 100 kilometers and lots of tour
Yeah,
groups and stuff that can
yeah.
sometimes make it not as,
Well, what I
for
would
some
say is
people,
that,
authentic. Go for it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I would say, it never felt to me the last like 100 kilometers never felt. I've heard stories again of people thinking, oh, look at all these jokers, they're only walking 100 kilometers. Like, I never really thought of that, that never crossed my mind. The feeling of arriving there, I guess, it's very hard to describe. In terms of getting the most out of it. And you know yourself what it's like when you see the cathedral for the first time from Monte de Gozo, and you think, oh, we're nearly there. But I'm personally, anyway, I can't speak for anyone else who was in my little group. I found it very hard to believe that we were actually finished. And I think even when you're kind of walking in down through the streets and you've maybe only got a couple of 100 meters left to go, I was always thinking in my head, like, oh my goodness, I'm not going to finish this, something's going to happen. Which was just, completely illogical, but it was just the way that I was thinking. And in terms of the crowds, I loved the crowds. I thought the crowds in the city, like, it was fantastic. And you could see people who were maybe just there on holidays, and they would see you arriving at the cathedral, and it's very emotional, and you hug everyone, and you cry, or some people cry, and you could see people looking at you, and they were smiling, and they were maybe congratulating you, because it's a really, for me, it's a really life changing sort of event, and very much the kind of the completion point of this thing that has just taken over your life for the past 5 or 6 weeks, but also in reference to the crowds, we had actually, Chris in my group was just the most organized man I've ever met, and he actually created a kind of different, like an alternative stopping point for us. So although we were following the Brearley guidebook, we kind of stopped then from Sarria onwards. We stopped maybe one stop before or one stop after, so we were still covering the same distance every day, but staying somewhere else, if that makes sense. So staying maybe slightly away from the crowds. So maybe that's why I didn't get kind of that feeling of kind of dissatisfaction with other people who were just walking from Sarria, or who were just walking a couple of 100 kilometers. But yeah, the arrival, it takes a while to sink in. And we got there and we sat down in the square, and I felt, when I first sat down, I was like, oh well, we're done. And then maybe like 10 or 15 minutes later, I actually got quite emotional, and I thought, oh my goodness, we're done. That's it, we're finished. And it gets quite overwhelming at a point, and I think then later on that evening it kind of hits you again, or hit me again anyway. But yeah, it's a hard one to describe. Hopefully that was a bit of a ramble, but hopefully it did some sort of job.
It's very hard to describe, and I'm always interested to know, because in many ways it should be about the journey, not the destination. And
Absolutely.
But for me, there was a I don't know, maybe an internal pressure to make that arrival in Santiago something special, and the only way I wanted to get, my way of getting stuff out of it was my own way of doing it, was to walk 58 kilometers to get there on the last day. To I wanted it to be like the water source for the dying man in the desert. I wanted it to be like something like that, like the peak of Everest for the mountaineer. That's what I wanted it to be like for me. But for other people, they might want to get there early morning and take in all the sights, the sounds, the smells, and witness the airport style reunions going on all around the city. And it's interesting for me to hear how people get the most out of it. And I'm also interested to hear how you touched on at the start of the interview about how you'd had a bit of a stressful time. And I think often as pilgrims, we go because we need to take a step outside of our normal lives and have a look at ourselves and our lives. Now, you don't have to go into details if you're not comfortable doing so, but I wonder if you were able to get some answers whilst on the road.
I would say absolutely, 100%. but before I left, really kind of up until I left, not just from when I booked to go, I was just wasn't in a very kind of good place, and I didn't expect the Camino to give me the kind of solace, I suppose, and the nearly kind of like a healing process. I hesitate to say healing process because I wasn't sick. I was just under a bit of pressure and a bit stressed out. It wasn't anything.
Gave you some space and a bit of time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
headspace more than anything.
And headspace, exactly. Yeah, and that's exactly what I found. And very much I found that not just in walking and having time to think, but in conversations with other people and talking to other people and meeting all these amazing families and amazing people from all around the world. And I mean, I do say, and I have always said that it really was a life-changing experience for me. And I always will remain so. I'll always look at it like that.
Why do you think it changed your life?
Put
you on the spot.
I think it gave me an appreciation of what I suppose is important. Like as soon as I came home, I realized how much stuff I had at home, like so many clothes and so many material possessions, and a lot of stuff that you didn't really need. Not that I'm saying, I mean, it's 100% okay if you want to have all those things, but when I came home, I cleared out a lot of things, and I put a lot more emphasis on talking to people and connecting with people and yeah, and as well as that, it just broadened my horizons completely, into different ways of life and different ways of living your life, I suppose.
Yeah.
And that you can just you can get by with very, very little, if the opportunity arises. But yeah, it's a hard thing to describe how it did change my life. But I'm a self-confessed addict, and I can't wait to get back as soon as I possibly can. And I'm not going back with the intention of having another life-changing, I suppose, experience like that. But I'm going back because you feel at ease, and I felt comfortable and on the road, and
Well, Aidan, thank you very much for being so candid in the interview, and for telling us all your stories, for all the great recommendations. I wish you, for the next time you go back to the Camino, whether it's sooner or later, of course, Buen Camino, and
gracias.
As the Camino motto says, Ultrea, move forward with courage.
Of course, always. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.